Man, look at that grouping. This thing is accurate. If you played any first-person shooter ever, you have most likely seen the H&K G36C. It's one of H&K's more unique designs. And today we have the Tokyo Marui Next Generation Recoil Shock G36C. And this is actually one of the older recoil shocks, so it doesn't have a lot of the features that you would expect in the newer ones that you might have today, like an M4 or even a SCAR, but it still has the core feature, which is that recoil shock. So let's go ahead and open this thing. So the Tokyo Marui box and packaging is up to Marui standards maybe 10 years ago, but it still looks good. So let's go ahead and open this lid to reveal the actual toy itself. We can see that it's strapped in by a couple straps. We got the magazine there. We got a little bit of furniture. Let's go ahead and take this out. We're not gonna waste any time. There we go. Nice, very nice and small considering its design. I can see why this was considered one of the first carbines of its time. Let's put this aside for a second. We have also the see-through magazine, which is 50 rounds. And this thing is notorious for not fitting in mag pouches. It also includes one of my favorite grips, the Shorty Tango Down, really nice for high bore gripping. And speaking of grip, it also comes with a grip for your grip. Underneath that, we have some Tokyo Marui BBs, some wrenches and screws to adjust the stock height. Then we have the short version of the manual. Then you have the full-size manual in Japanese, so I'm not gonna bother reading that to you today. And then it comes with your standard Tokyo Marui, put on the safety cap, don't shoot it at people. All right, guys, the Tokyo Marui Recoil Shock G36C. It feels really nice. Let's throw in the magazine really quickly. Nice and solid, no wobble. It does creak, the magazine does, but the body doesn't creak. I'm pretty sure this is made of ABS and nylon combined, unlike the standard G36, which is just complete ABS for that creaky goodness. And it feels really solid. You know, I was kind of worried about it feeling like the AUG, for example, the high cycle AUG, but this is really nice. And it feels really good to shoulder. Yes. It's quite, you know, it feels really ergonomic considering its really strange design. I'm so used to like using an M4 platform or even trying to press the button here like a 416 or something, but it's really cool. So let's not waste any time and go tip the butt. On the tip here, we have the proprietary metal flash hider, and it is counterclockwise, so I can remove this. I can remove this to reveal the counterclockwise barrel so that you can put on a suppressor, a tracer, whatever you want. And it does include a little tiny O-ring on there so your things aren't gonna get stuck. Also from there, you can see the inner barrel, which is Tokyo Marui stock. Let's go ahead and screw this back on. And on the handguard, we have Picatinny sections on 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 6 o'clock, with 6 o'clock having a sling point attachment. And as you grip this thing, it is quite chonky. You can see my big man hands can barely get around this thing. So for anybody who has small hands, this might be a little bit harder to grip, but I think that's why we have the included Tango Down operator foregrip that you can just put on there for a high bore. Speaking of this foregrip, all you gotta do is unscrew the bottom a little bit, and then you slide it on from the back, and you put it in your preferred spot, right in the grooves, and then it'll stick. And now you have a high bore grip that you can easily pull into your shoulder and go from there. So really nice, and really glad they included this thing because it's quite necessary. So moving along the handguard, we go to this top rail here, which is very long and generous. It is made of metal. It is also a carry handle, and it feels really good to hold. Doesn't feel like it's gonna fall off or anything like that. Very sturdy and very clean and well designed. Thank you, Tokyo Marui. And speaking of this carry handle, we have the charging handle, which is also metal, which can be pulled from the left about this far and the right this far. They really thought about ergonomics and ambidextrous design when they were inventing the G36. It doesn't go all the way, unfortunately. And actually the handle is plastic, but the rest of the charging handle is metal. So you gotta be a little bit careful pulling this, try not to yank it, but other than that, you should be good to go. And by pulling this charging handle, it reveals the hop chamber, which is a rotary style. Which brings us to the receiver, which is a shiny ABS plastic, but it doesn't creak, so it's very nice. This bottom section here where the mag well is can actually be removed and replaced with a M4 magazine adapter. So if you're interested in using M4 magazines, that is an option for you. We got some markings on the receiver as well, G36C 556x45 and a serial number. And on the other side, we have a warning symbol, Tokyo Marui license, as well as a G36 license. And also on the ejection port, it has a shell deflector. So that's pretty cool. Nice attention to detail there. Okay, so moving on, we have a selector that is very similar to the UMP design. We have safe, semi, and full auto. So one thing about this fire select that I noticed is that the tappet plate is staged in a weird way. So if I click down, that is still safe. Now it's semi. Now it's still semi. Now it's full auto. So it's like this weird 6-stage thing going on. So I thought that was kind of strange. So it's gonna take a little bit of training to get yourself on safe right away. But once you get used to it, easily clicks. And of course it is ambidextrous with the right side being a little bit different. If you go from the right side, different sound, no click, then click on semi, then like that. So let's move on to the grip. Very, very similar to the MP5 A5. And it's actually quite thin considering it's an AEG. And it feels really, really good and solid and not as slippery as the MP5, ironically. That trigger guard also goes smoothly into your fingers. It's nice and wide for you to reach the trigger. And the motor is at the bottom if you want to adjust that. Moving on to the trigger, it is quite fat, it is metal, but I'd like to bring your attention to the mag catch. There is no mag catch button like an M4. It is a paddle release, just like an MP5. And finally, let's move on to the stock. The stock is a plastic stock, kind of looks like the UMP stock, and it's foldable. So if I press the button and swing it around to the deflector, it also acts as a lock for the stock, which makes it great for transport as well as CQB. And you can see the back plate, there's no battery compartment or anything like that because it is front wired. So to release it, you go up like so, and snaps back into place. It feels very solid, a lot more solid than the Scar buttstock, ironically. And this button is actually made of metal, so that's good, unlike the Scar where it was made of plastic. And lastly, sling points, one right here, one on the stock, and one at the end here that we talked about at the beginning. Let's throw a battery in this thing and test that response. All right, so to install the battery, it's pretty simple. You just pull out this pin at the front, like so. Slide the handguard out to reveal the outer barrel and the battery compartment. And the cool thing to notice here really quickly is that the gas piston or mock gas piston moves along with the recoil. All right, so with Tokyo Marui, they want you to use the nickel metal hydride 8.4 volt, but I always use a 7.4 LiPo. So we're using my little tiny boy 20C 7.4. So this thing is like over 10 years old, so it is a Tamiya connection. So we're gonna go ahead and plug that in. Tamiya connection in. There's a little groove here for that nickel metal hydride, but since we have a tiny little LiPo, we won't need that. So you just get it in like that, put the pin back, and you're ready to go. For the sake of safety, let us switch to rated iPro here, but we can see that this is empty and the magazine is also empty. 7.4 LiPo. Let's see the response of this thing. Ooh, ooh, nice. It's quite responsive. So inside is an NGRS version of the version 3 gearbox, which is the same as the AKs. And I'll tell you right now, it's quite responsive, especially compared to my AK Storm, which runs on the same gearbox. And that recoil, it's actually quite nice. You can feel it kind of going through the stock and everything. It's not much, but yeah, it's quite nice. So this is not just an EBB. There's actually a weight being pulled along this piston. So, Sasuga Marui. Does not have a MOSFET though, so you are gonna be burning out those contacts eventually. But until then, that trigger pull is quite long compared to an M4, so see that? Now, only when you start half pulling the trigger, you'll get lockup. So let's try and simulate that. You can see that it starts to get a little messed up. It won't, it goes. I'm trying to feather the trigger here. There you go, there's the semi-lock. So when that happens, just go to full auto, release it, and you'll be good to go. Really fun, wow. Nice. So one thing to note about this G36, and as you may have noticed right now, is that I'm actually able to dry fire it, which means it doesn't have a bolt stop function. So when it goes empty, it does not stop, and then I don't have to rack anything. So that is a core feature of the NGRS system that is not included with the G36 because it wasn't invented at the time. So that is a little unfortunate, but all things considered, this is old and you gotta give them a pass on that. And honestly, it doesn't take away from the fun. All right, so it functions well, good response. Let's test that accuracy. Okay guys, so here we are in a little 10-foot range with the G36C and some 0.2 gram Marui BBs. And we're gonna be shooting our little target there with the hop disengaged to see how well these general groupings are. And that is 50 rounds right there. 50 round magazine, load this thing up. Rack the charging handle for no reason. No iron sight, so we're just gonna have to eyeball it. Here we go. Wow. There we go. Wow. Wow. Really hard with that irons. Tasty little recoil and response right there. As you can see, the groupings, very, very tight. Marui quality right there, boys and girls. Oh yeah. Laser beam right there. I know it's only 10 feet, but I can just tell by the groupings there are no flyers except for the very first shot. Let's do a little magu dumpu. Full auto, here we go. Yep, 2 BBs don't feed, but very, very nice and clean. You can see that grouping right there. What we're gonna try next is a little bit of the hop engaged and see if it still remains accurate. All right, so we're gonna adjust the hop by pulling on this very fragile lever and just going up a little bit on this hop unit. It is not clickable, so you just kind of gotta guess. And we have an unknown weighted BB in here. I just have a bottle of random BBs I need to get rid of. All right, so semi-auto with 0.25 BBs, I guess. Hop engaged, very nice. Look at this. Man, look at that grouping. Ah, full auto this. Man. And the 2 BBs didn't feed, of course. But man, this thing is accurate. Hell yeah. Okay, now it is time for the accuracy test. Shooting the little orange thing on our lilacs target there using these mystery BBs. They're probably 0.25 with the hop engaged. Let's see if we can hit this thing without iron sights. There you go. Wow. Look at that accuracy. Oh, kind of choked a bit there. Oh man. It's just a beamer. Am I out of ammo though? That's gonna be hard to tell. Because of the clang, there is really no distinct sound between empty and full. They sound pretty much the same, so that's gonna be a little bit of a struggle bus, but you know, beggars can't be choosers there. But guys, super accurate beamer. Absolute beamer. One cool thing before we move on is that if you have 2 of the G36 magazines, they have a little bit of this notch here. You can actually throw them together like so, and they become a double magazine, which means you can reload it like this. Very ergonomic. All right guys, so with 0.2 gram BBs, we're going to test the G36 with no hop. 9.4, 9.5, 9.5, 9.5, 9.5. That's pretty fast. Okay, so let's put the hop maybe halfway. See what that does. 9.4, 9.4, 9.4, 9.4, 9.5, okay? And let's go all the way up to max. See what this does. 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, 8.4. All right, so pretty fast. Let's go to full auto and check that RPM. Yep, 15. Just as I thought. All right, guys, so that has been the Tokyo Marui G36C Recoil Shock. And I gotta say, I am pleasantly surprised. I thought this thing was gonna be a piece of junk because it's so old. Maybe over time they've made changes with each batch, but this is really, really solid. That trigger response is really, really good. The build quality is very good. I'm sure it'll creak over time, but for now, it's really good. Accuracy is fine. Speed is standard for Tokyo Marui Recoil Shock. And overall, it's a god dang G36. It's a legendary silhouette that everyone knows. And I can't wait to show you guys gameplay of this in the future. The only downside I would say is that it doesn't have iron sights built in. This charging handle is a little bit too flimsy. If it breaks, I do have access to those parts from Marui themselves. Also, in its current state, proprietary magazines are a must and they don't quite fit in every pouch, so it does kind of limit your loadout a little bit. But other than that, this thing is absolutely fantastic and is definitely a collector's item, and it's a plus that is actually usable. So what do you guys think about the Tokyo Marui G36C Recoil Shock? Do you think it's a yay? Do you think it's a nay? What do you think about the G36C in general? Let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, as always, if you guys want to see more Airsoft in Japan, go ahead and click this video right here.